I don't believe men and women should be friends. I simply don't. And I don't believe the dynamics work. Now, as a guy, it's good to have friends, people in your circle who are not a detriment, people who are not negative, which is why it's good to have discernment and have your guard up and vet who you allow into your life. But when it comes to male and female friendships, I don't believe that they can work simply because one of the two parties at some point in the friendship is bound to catch feelings. Let me go into detail with this one and why actually my opinion a few years ago on this subject would have been different. So, my junior year of high school, there was a girl who I'd known from a class we were taking together. And she was cool. We would study together after class. There was a library for the department. She'd usually be in there. We'd kind of bounce ideas off each other for homework and such. And it went from that to planning now meetups to the library. Oh, when are you going to be in? I'm going to study it, hitting each other up over text or Instagram to kind of give each other tips or help with the homework. As time went on, it got to the point where we were talking over the phone as friends, things outside of class now. So I didn't think a whole lot of it. Personally, I was not physically attracted to her. She was a cool girl to talk to, but I didn't see her in a way of someone I'd want to date or be in a relationship with. Now, as time went on, we would talk over the phone. We would text every now and then, just like I would with a guy friend, just like I would have with a guy friend. A few months down the line, about 2 or 3 months, I think, we were just chatting back and forth. She sends me a long 3-paragraph thing on WhatsApp. I think she was out of town at the time, or she did some quarter abroad after that quarter. And we would still talk while she was out doing the quarter abroad. She had sent me a 2 or 3 paragraph thing just basically saying, hey, I like you. Personality wise, we get along, your sense of humor, all that stuff. And I was in the middle of something when she sent that, so I basically said, hey, let's talk over the phone when you're free, because I didn't want to be one to do that over text, to be completely honest. I'm the kind of person where if I have something to say that's maybe a little bit more serious or could be considered more serious, I'd rather just do it either over the phone or talking in person, because there's obviously things that can be conveyed verbally that are a little bit harder to convey over text. But I basically told her, and to be honest with you, I made up some excuse because I didn't want to be potentially hurtful, but I just said something like, hey, me and an ex are actually talking, we're getting back together. So that was kind of that. Just kind of gave an excuse, which it was not the truth, but again, I didn't want to hurt her feelings, to be completely honest. And I'm sure that was hard. I've heard women handle rejection much harder than men. Men are more used to rejection than women are, because men are usually the ones making the first move. That's just kind of how the dynamics are. But after that, things were a little bit awkward. Every now and then she'd hit me up on Instagram, though, and send me memes and all different kinds of stuff. And it got to a point where I wanted it to stop, because I wanted her to be able to move on with herself. And I didn't feel comfortable continuing this friendship when she broke that boundary of showing that she has feelings. I didn't feel comfortable for her own sake as well of continuing the friendship. Because at that point, once you've broken that boundary, it's no longer a friendship. If one of the two parties looks at anyone in that way, it just can't be a friendship. That's the truth. So I would just give little replies, just like, thumbs up or whatever on the meme she was sending, hoping she would kind of eventually get the memo and stop. But she kept doing it and kept doing it. And again, maybe I could have been more blunt and just said, hey, I maybe should have said that, quite frankly. And this was a few years ago. I was a lot more, I was a different person. I was in my earlier 20s. I was a different person. And I've developed a lot through experience and observing other people. That's just part of life. But I was getting advice from friends that said, like, guys, this girl keeps hitting me up, and I told them about having to reject her and just basically saying, what do you think that I should do? And Someone said, to be honest, man, I think you should just block her because it's going to be hard at first, but this way she'll be able to move on and not think about you and not have to see your profile. And at the end of the day, that's what I did because she would just keep hitting me up and keep hitting me up and keep hitting me up. Now, the reason I'm telling this story is to show that one of the two parties is bound to catch feelings at some point, if both are straight, of course. But I just have seen it a lot too, observing other people. I think a lot more of the time, usually, the guy is the one that breaks that barrier. Perhaps she was waiting for me, thinking I was interested to do that, and I didn't do that. Maybe that's why it took a bit for her to confess or admit her feelings. But the reality is, too, you're not going to be able to have the same kind of friendship with a girl than you are with a guy, in my opinion, if that makes sense. It it just is not the same. It's not the same. And things like this is why I think it can be very risky to do, because then it just makes everything awkward. Then it's like, okay, well, this isn't going to work anymore. I'm going to have to distance myself from this person. And there's things perhaps other people have shared experiences saying that they have been in, because again, I've talked to other people about this subject, and I've heard other people say that they have female friends and they don't look in that way. Now, that's all fair and fine, but I'm just telling you from my experience and my opinion and what I've also been able to observe. Because even with her, she was cool to talk to. We did get along and have good conversation. But in all honesty, I was just not attracted to her. And no matter what people want to say, that is important. I remember I've heard people just say the most ridiculous. It's mostly these like libs, to be honest, that'll bash guys for saying that kind of stuff. But it's like, you tell the girl, okay, you know what? Then go find a guy who has an incredible personality but looks like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, whatever, and we'll see how quickly they're dating him. That's my point. You have to be physically, or you at least should have some physical attraction to your partner. Now, of course, there's a part where you don't want to have a complete maniac that you're attracted to, a complete narcissist who's going to wreak havoc and ruin your life. No. But there should be something there. But anyway, guys, that's just my story dealing with it. Why I personally don't think the dynamics can work.